happened in the last week. Um, Without going into all the details, I've prepared a statement that will kind of summarize. Anybody that tuned into the DragonShip last week, Thor afterwards had to pass off leadership duties due to the condition. But without further ado, I'm going to read off this statement. This statement is also in the description. This video is being done so that way, or this live stream is being done so that way there is a video and some closure for people, and also direction about what's going to be happening next with Thor's legacy. All right. So after a deep conversation on Friday night, April 11th, between Thor, Glenn, and Paul, with Thor's full agreement, they've come to the decision to retire the DragonShip in its current weekly panel format. Thor had received confirmation that his tumor has returned for a third time and is now inoperable. In light of this, he wanted to know who to pass the torch to, both for the panel show and the Dragon's membership. So he approached Huds and Paul about it initially, taking over. After some honest conversations between them, they realized that if either of them were to step in, they'd likely end up rebranding the show anyway and folding the Dragons membership into their community's beer club or Men of Now. Glenn, however, felt strongly about preserving Thor's legacy, not just for the sake of what the Dragons have built, but to ensure that membership continues to provide value and support, especially for Thor's wife, Missy, down the road. This intention is rooted in honoring what Thor started and giving it the space to evolve into something that we can continue to serve men, while also serving a greater purpose. To that end, Glenn will be taking the reins of what comes next, a monthly pre-recorded show similar in spirit to the Trident, but with a focus on quality, depth, and longevity. This new format will be placed behind a paywall for the members, bolstering the revenue stream to benefit Missy and sustain Thor's impact beyond his time. Thor agreed to this plan on Friday, April 11th, and after the DragonShip aired on April 12th, Thor informed the Drakkars in attendance and then passed his vest to Glenn to make the call to give the order disbanding the DragonShip panel shows as they are now. The truth is, the weekly live panels haven't been generating consistent revenue even before Thor had his channel deleted due to an upload mistake. Thor had confided in me, Tarl, that others and others as well, it had been increasingly draining to maintain financially, but it was helping him keep focused at that time, as he was focused on, he had 2 surgeries, and it was helping in his focus in terms of recovery. Now, obviously, the tumor came back. So Glenn had planned a meeting on April 18th, which we did have, but due to some other situations, we weren't even sure if that was going to happen, because due to some issues with Thor's medication, he ended up in the hospital again and had to be there for, I think it was like 2 days to get that balance back out. Vidar was there by his side and was able to help with that. So, and thank you, Vidar. Let's see. Yeah, because the side effects accelerator, sorry, I lost my place there. This is hard to deal with, honestly, even for me. The thing is right now, time is not on Thor or Glenn's side in this battle. So this is the end of the DragonShip panels for now, but it is not the end of the Drakkar's story or the DragonShip name. Thor has the trademark. The next chapter is coming, and it's being written with love, respect, and purpose. Tarl has offered to aid Glenn with the details. We'll be talking about a little bit later in the Q&A when that time comes for the reconstruction. And right now, relaying as many details like I am right now as I can to everyone. But for now, what really matters is Thor, the time he has left with his closest loved ones, right? So Thor's willpower is unquestionable, and we will never forget his words or his strength in the face of overwhelming odds. We are the sons of Thor, and we will fight on. Skål, gentlemen. So that's my sentiment. I borrowed that statement from something that Paul said about it, because some of the members of the DragonShip have left. We disbanded last week, so that's why there's few of us here now. Other things happened. Everybody's under a lot of stress. just to TLDR it for people. And so this is basically what we're going to be talking about today is resilience, you know? So the primary definition of resilience is the ability to recover quickly from illness, change, or misfortune. So this is something that Thor exemplary, he's an amazing man. The amount of pain this man has had to deal with in his life and he's been able to bounce back from, that's why I created, this thumbnail, because I think that's a good example of what the essence of Thor's mindset is right there on your screen. This man is incredibly resilient, even in this face of overwhelming odds. And his ability to bounce back, even in these dire situations, is incredible. I've witnessed it my firsthand. I was fortunate enough to sit in with Missy and Thor for dinner last night, and that was very wholesome. And I thanked Missy for allowing me to be there. So, and she was very glad I could be there as well. So, and I'm in contact with her now to continue to give that support to both of them in this dire time. My mom just went through this with the love of her life just not a couple of years ago, and we're still dealing with the ramifications from that ourselves. So, this is a good time for me able to be here. I didn't know I was going to be stepping into this role like this. Thor originally invited me on the DragonShip due to my technical prowess and ability. The panel shows were optional. I chimed in because, I thought it was the right thing to do. So that's, kind of where things are at. I hope everybody can understand that. We do have a plan for the framework going forward. And yeah, I wanted to get Vidar, I wanted to get your thoughts on Thor's resilience. You're muted.
He's one of the most incredible men I've known. I'm proud that he's my brother. I've watched him many times come back from things that completely seem that would be unbearable for many men. And like I've said to his children, if anybody can beat this, his diagnosis, it will be him. I personally don't write him off yet, but there is one thing we all do know, and we all are going to face at one time is, like Jim Morrison said, no one gets off this, no one gets off of this alive, this planet alive, and that's just the case. So, um, we all have our time. We only have a short time here. Most of us don't know how long or when that's going to be. So, resilience is what we're going to do to make sure that while we do have that time here, we're productive, we're helpful, we help our fellow man, and we'll hopefully have a legacy to pass on. Thor does have a great legacy. That's why we're here, and we can help it live on. Uh, this is an example of life that there, when we have, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, when we manifest, when we follow the law of attraction and we manifest, there are limits to it. And you'll see that even with faith or whatever we want to call that, as long as we have it, there are confines to it. And one of them is our actual mortality on this earth. We're not getting away from it. So, with that, uh, being durable, being strong, and bouncing back from our problems, Thor was great. Thor is a great example. Even with his becoming durable, his books that he's written, the superhero within, the information's all there, and it's good information. Because someone succumbs to the mortality doesn't mean the information is not true, and it is true, and it will help so many people during the confines of their short time here. So I want to say that Thor has been a great man. His goal has been to make good men better, and that's what we're going to do and focus on with honor, morality, and virtuousness, as we move forward uh, with this new chapter we're going to take, as we move forward with Thor's wishes.
Yes, sir. Yep. And that's the thing. It's been kind of amusing for me because thanks to Thor, I'm in the best shape of my life right now, to the point where, you, Vidar, and even Jack Napier the other day when I was on his stream, you both had like almost identical reactions. You found out I'm actually 40, because everybody seems to think I'm 26 when they look at me and they don't know my age, and that's thanks to Thor. Thor taught me about hormone health. And I learned Myron taught me about the sports science side of things, and then Glenn backed him up with the hormone health side of things. And me putting those two guys' information together changed my life fundamentally, because I got the healthy body I needed so I could clear my head. And that's why I'm able to remain stoic and calm in harsh situations, why I'm able to respond appropriately rather than inappropriately to the best of my ability. And I'm only human too. I always remember I'm flawed, and I actually do owe Glenn an apology, because Glenn has been holding so much back. Like, I even was misperceiving some of his actions, not understanding the weight of the responsibility he was bearing. So I owe you, and I'm giving it here now publicly, Glenn. Like, I owe you an apology, and here it is. I'm sorry, Glenn. I didn't know, and I know better now. And I'm glad I trusted my gut to do my due diligence and just talk to the man himself, and then talk to the people actually involved and get as much information as possible. Because without that, like, I might have assumed that the sudden shift in leadership might be a bad thing, but it's not. You've been very clear that, everything that you talked to me about, that we discussed, that we'll be discussing later about the plan, lines up perfectly with everything that Thor told me he wanted to do, both for the website, for the membership structures, all this stuff. It matches up. Now, Thor didn't know what the logistics were going to be like, but he knew that, guys like me, and other dragons were going to be instrumental in making these changes happen when they were needed. And here we are now. So that's the key thing, is like maintaining that emotional resilience in hard times. The physical resilience helps with bolstering that emotional resilience, because your mental health is a result of your physical health. But at the same time, it all comes down to our ability to be resilient internally. Right now, the fight that Thor's battling is internal. It's almost ironically, ironically, a metaphor for what he teaches us, is that the battle is within your own mind. You're waging a war within your own mind against the negative influences to be able to get what you want in life. And that resilience is key, because nobody succeeds by accident. Yeah, sometimes there's outliers that get, quote, lucky. But see, the luck, they're at the right place at the right time, a lot of these things have to do with you putting yourself in the right situations and then seeing the opportunity there. And that's the thing. If you're afraid of friction, you're afraid of conflict, and you're not focusing on de-escalating conflict rather than escalating conflict, you're going to shy away from that resilience. You're going to lean more into what I've talked about before, that outcome dependence, where when things don't go your way, you either give up or spaz out. And the thing is that life is not fair. Like, Thor's a prime example of this. This man doesn't deserve any of the the circumstances, that's the word I'm looking for, that he's going through right now. Both him and Missy, they didn't deserve any of that in terms of like what people would consider fair and just, but that's reality, and he's not mad about it. He's still trying to help other people when he should just be focusing on helping himself. But here he is, still trying to come on the podcast, still trying to tell people, how to fight that internal battle and be durable. Embrace that resilience. Understand that you can. If you recalibrate, you refocus, you go in with a proper plan, you can do anything. But the key thing is, none of us ever do this alone. Nothing that human beings do now is ever done alone. This idea of a lone wolf, I think, is asinine. Yes, we can be capable individuals, but you know what happens to lone wolves in real life? They're usually starving. They're usually not very well off. A lot of people like fantasize and idealize the same way that a lot of the red pill space talks about alpha and beta, and they've got like this idealized version of it in their head, the apex fallacy. But the thing is that when they talk about this stuff, they don't really understand the details. They talk about it on a surface level, and they don't go deep like Thor does, where he goes, no, the internal battle is the battlefield. Because if you can conquer the battlefield of the mind, you can conquer anything in life, because you will do what is necessary with honor, integrity, and value to others to achieve those goals. That's what a good leader is. That's what a good king is. A king that cares about his subjects is going to be and doesn't want the crown is going to be a far better leader than somebody's like, I got all the ideas, we're going to do this, that, and the other thing, but without any real measured care for his subordinates. We all know this. I've talked about this before. I call it universal leadership. We know a universally good leader when we see it. We can't always put our finger on it. Same way that guys talk about, like, yeah, we know what alpha is. We know what a masculine presence is. When we see it, when we feel it, we know it. But for a lot of people, it is hard to explain. Thor is one of the unique individuals I met that could actually break it down, compartmentalize it, break it down almost like a machine, addressing that human consciousness and how a winner's mindset actually works. Not just that, winners win because they try hard. No, winners win because they think about solving problems this way. They deal with conflict and problems this way. They conduct themselves in these ways. And that's what gives you that resilience, because when you are the rock, the foundation for the house you're building, and you are unshakable, then even when your house gets knocked down and you're left, knocked down on the ground, you can get back up, dust yourself off, and rebuild. And you don't do it because you are sure you can. You can, and that's what gives you that assuredness, because you've built things before. So, even if the big bad wolf comes along, huffs and bluffs, and blows my house down, I'm going to rebuild a better house. When life isn't fair, you're going to be like, well, the reason why we have this concept of fairness as human beings is because we fight, we strive, we manifest through action fairness. And we've gotten apathetic and entitled to that fairness. But no one in life is owed fairness. You can argue, yeah, well, I did this, that, and the other thing. I earned it. Yeah, that could be true. But in real life, doesn't always mean you're going to get something. And that's where I think a lot of people get frustrated and they lose that resilience, is when the outcome doesn't go the way that they think or feel it should. They become so dependent on that they can't recalibrate. They can't adapt to the new circumstances. And those are the people that end up staying in the mud. They don't brush themselves off. And that's why I try my best every day. It's like whenever I'm having a hard time now, I view myself as a fucking pussy. Because when I know for sure personally what Thor's going through, and knowing from having seen family members lose battles in the past with these sort of issues, I can't help but be humbled. And damn near feel shame if I even have a hint of bitch ass in me about doing anything. Because I'm just like going to remember, Thor's not my only example. I have another good friend that, he has sickle cell anemia. For anybody that knows about that, he has to deal with tremendous pain, and it comes and goes, but he's led a happy, healthy career in his life despite his difficulties. So when it's like, I got two of those stars in my life, people that are dealing with absolute suffering, but they don't let life beat them down. They fight back and they conquer. And those are the inspirations I have. So that, like I said, now I'm to the point where anytime I'm thinking I want to quit, or I want to bow out, or do this, that, or the other thing, or not step up to the plate when I can do something about an issue or a situation, I'm just going to look at I could never live with myself anymore. I'd be a fucking bitch. And I couldn't live with myself then. So I will continue to step up and help as best as I can. And that's resilience. That is the essence that Thor is given to me, and why I'm going to be giving my son Thor's book, as well as other people's books, to help him get a good foundation. So that way he can be a resilient man as well. Because that's what I see in today's society is the fundamental missing principle, is people lacking physical and emotional resilience. As soon as things get uncomfortable, they want to change in a very drastic way, or come up with an emotional response. And I used to be that guy. Like I said, I used to be a progressive leftist. I used to be the guy that probably would have gone out and been at the riots, that were supposed to be peaceful protests. I was the person that was stuck in that mindset. But thanks to guys like Thor, I was able to check myself before I wrecked myself, and I will be eternally grateful. And this is why I will continue to do what I'm doing for the Dragonship. So I hope that makes sense. I know I went on a lot monologue there because, like I said, I'm pretty emotional myself, so I'm channeling that into a passion as a way of coping.
Well, that's what makes you a great man. It's your passion.
Thank you. So I don't know if Glenn is going to be able to start the Q&A. I know there wasn't really. Oh, hold on. Let me check the. Okay, Glenn had to be right back. So yeah, Glenn is still trying to help and stuff like that. There's daily things going on, which is a part of the main reason why the panel shows need to come to an end, because Glenn is typically not going to be there with how things are going. And yeah. So I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to say, Vidar, maybe on related topics to Thor's legacy in terms of like resilience and stuff, but we can keep chatting for a minute about that if you'd like to.
I've said, what I feel. I'd just be reiterating. So
Yeah.
you had a good little talk there. We're all sorry to see it go, but at the same time, as one door closes, another one opens, and we need to embrace the change. And I will do my best to keep his legacy alive, and his legacy alive with his principles, his teaching, and it will be done with honor, integrity, and gallantry. With that, also, I'd like to remind everyone that tomorrow is the day we celebrate the rise of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Yeshua Christos. So it's the day we celebrate and we have in remembrance, which we should the whole time, that just like yesterday, what we call Good Friday, we remember that's the day that he died upon the cross, and with him he took all of our sins so that we can now stand righteous before God, which righteous means stand without any sense of guilt or accusations toward us. So we can stand there and actually come before him. So with that, remember, in remembrance of him, happy Easter, everyone.
Yep. Happy Easter. All right. So I guess moving on, I will start with some of the notes that Glenn has prepared about the plan moving forward. This is a general framework, so none of this is set in stone by any means yet, but this is just a result of a conversation that Glenn and I had where he was picking my brain about some of the things that we would be able to do going forward, because he admitted he needed help with this, and that's what Thor asked me to get involved with, so I attempted to do that. So in terms of like I'm just going to try to read off the notes here as best as I can. For the homepage revamp, objective, showcase, membership tiers, and access to coaching or mentorship. So key changes, new hero banner, Sons of Thor, carry the torch forward. Let's see, different buttons, join the Brotherhood, book one-on-one coaching, watch the Trident show, different sections, what is Sons of Thor, monthly Brotherhood meetings, book plus curriculum, Shield Maiden show, teaser for women, testimonials from the members, member legacy highlight, especially Thor's story, why it matters. Let's see, navigation structure. So there'd be a home page, an about us page, meeting the coaches, book coaching, Brotherhood membership, shows, Trident show, Shields Maiden, story time plus mentorship, Legacy of Thor, apply to join, login, and member portal. Okay. So, and then for the about page, Sons of Thor, content structure, who was Thor, why become durable, mission, picking up where Thor left off, bios of each coach, patch member and recruiter, clean and masculine layout. I like that note. Highlight Thor's legacy and his wife's story to inspire legacy-minded men. That's very important. A lot of guys in the space talk about legacy in terms of like not just their family, but also what they've built. And Thor is somebody who's done both of those things. And that's what I am seeking to do as well. Let's see, membership structure. So let's see, the Brotherhood membership. Initiate, free, preview access. Access to the public Triton episodes, intro book list, email newsletter, pledge member, $25 a month, monthly Zoom meeting, led by a patch member, book and curriculum access, private Discord or community group, access to behind paywall shows, Trident Deep Dive, Shield Maiden, etc. Oath member, $100 a month. Monthly one-on-one coach call, where they get to pick their coach. Legacy, and this is one of the things that my expertise come in handy, is that I've been working on my own website. It had to be put on pause for a while, but I had actually come up with I found a software plugin for a website where you can basically organize coaches for Zoom meetings, and it puts it all in the calendar. It allows the coaches to put in their availability and for people to be able to go to that one-on-one coaching section, and you can book a coach at the time that you have available, that they have available. And it makes it very streamlined. So it just makes it where the members can go in like, hey, I want one-on-one coaching, go to the page, which coach do I want? Go to the booking section, book it, and then the coach in question will get a notification, money will change hands, all that good stuff. And all this stuff is going to be able to be handled within that software. So this will take time to get built out, obviously with a new website and things like that. And I'm working with Glenn on that. So let's see, where was I at? So yeah, the Oath members, the one-on-one coaching, legacy mentorship path, 6 months commitment, submit a story for review during story time, early access to events, DragonShip hosting rights, must propose a topic and date and all that stuff. So if you're going to be doing the panel shows, just like we do for here, this is where that sort of thing, when the DragonShip does come back, there will be the same criteria that Thor originally set out, with a few caveats and changes in line with the structure changes he wanted to make. For a little bit of context of why that's going to be the case, is that as Thor was running the DragonShip in its current form, it was, as I said in the public statement before, is that it wasn't being cost effective in terms of really generating a revenue stream even when he had his channel that was built out. So what he was doing is because DragonShip members weren't really incentivized to come in, for sure, they weren't guaranteed any money or anything from that. It was basically a courtesy where they could cross-pollinate and self-promote, not just like the books that we're writing was part of the project, but our own personal brands and platforms and stuff like that. That may shift in the future for the members, because we're trying to create the structure to be under, it goes back to the old multi-channel network models, where you have a primary umbrella with everybody under that umbrella, other than one main umbrella and then smaller umbrellas around that umbrella, if that makes sense. I hope that that analogy works for people. So let's see. Coaching page, book one-on-one, drop-down menu of coaches, coach name, specialty, availability, book calendar. Yeah, like the stuff I talked about, integration, coaching bundles as well. We'll be able to put, that's another thing you can do with that software, is that like if people want discount codes for their coaching and stuff like that, you can even run promotions with that. You can create a discount codes and things like that, send out promotional codes to people, and be able to do like package deals as well, where it's like, hey, these 3 coaches, they do a collaborative thing to give guys a better rounded sort of information, where they can do these, more open type of coaching or get rapid succession. and that'll be up to the coaches to create those bundles. But that is another option that will be available through the software. So you're not even necessarily, it gives us the flexibility to where we wouldn't even necessarily do one-on-one coaching. We could even do like panel style coaching, or just make it where, like, say somebody needed to learn this skill before a next skill before another skill, in terms of the coach's specialities and things like that. Because, once again, not every coach is going to have all the same information or speciality. So I hope that makes sense as well. Let's see. Content platform integration, member portal, login required. So you'll have your own account and all that stuff. The monthly patch meetings and recordings, active book curriculum, Trident Show Vault, Dead Bedroom, Cheating Recovery, Shield Maiden Archive, mentor DMPs, Dominant Masculine Presence. So for instance, mine is, I'm Tarl. I am the avatar of Amuse Mastery. Thor talks about in his books, like the superhero inside him. Like, you got to have that identity of who and what you are in your core mindset. And that's my mindset. That's why I can handle things, because my mindset is that I can master anything I put my mind to. So whenever I'm dealing with problems, I always have Amuse Mastery, because I know if I do my due diligence, remain calm, assess the situation, I will be able to come out on top of any situation, because I maintain that calm and understand that I will achieve mastery through that calm. So that's a good thing for guys to understand, is like who your identity is, who you are as a man. Because until you decide who you are as a man and really yourself in that, it's going to be very difficult for you to project that out to the world, because you don't even know what you're projecting. All right. So Shows Hub, still going over the website. Trident Show, monthly 3-man deep dive. Dead Bedroom, post-cheating recovery, TOS and legal guidance for men. Only available to pledge and oath members. All right. So Shield Maiden, monthly women's show, hosted by Gia McCool. Topics: feminine restoration, relationships, and legacy. Story time plus membership. Personal narratives, men learning through reflection plus correction. Each patch runs at least one meeting a month. Recruitment and patch responsibilities. Recruiting from, do you have what it takes to become a patch? Okay, so we'll be recruiting internally from people that are doing the work. Active recruiting, call to action, skin in the game structure, minimum 6-month mentorship track, story review, book completion, and curriculum pass. Legal and ethical backbone, TOS, privacy, code of conduct, required for behind paywall materials, clear standards on membership boundaries, personal information, and show content. So legacy message, bottom banner of every page. This brotherhood leaves no man behind, especially not the one who gave it all. Sons of Thor continues not only in word, but in deed, with legacy that cares for Thor's beloved wife. So, and that's all the notes that Glenn had for me. I don't know if Glenn is back yet. If you would like to chime in on that, Glenn, if you are back. I know he's dealing with a lot right now, but
I need about
that's
like two minutes real quick. I'll be ready.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it'll just be if anybody has any questions. So I gave the basic layout, the rundown. Like I said, that is a general outline, just to give more of the viewers context about what's going to be happening next, why everything happened. That's my whole goal for this, is to just give people as much context and respect to Thor's legacy as possible. So that's the notes. And I'm sure that as soon as Glenn gets here, he'll be able to go in. So if anybody has any questions or would like clarifications,
can you go to a
oh yeah,
mid-roll?
okay, yeah, we can do a mid-roll. All right, yes. So speaking of which, I just finished listening to this as well, because it's out on Audible now. This is Thor's new book, The Superhero Inside.
The first step in killing a man's ambition is making him doubt himself, and this starts early. As a boy, he dreams big. He wants to be a warrior, a king, a hero, but the world tells him to sit still, be quiet, and fall in line. It punishes his aggression and rewards his compliance. It tells him that assertiveness is aggression and that dominance is toxic masculinity. Women are taught to chase their dreams, demand more, and never settle. Men? They are taught that ambition is dangerous, that their instincts should be suppressed, and they must earn permission to lead. The modern man has been raised to be useful, but never powerful. And so he stops trying. He conforms. He shrinks. He buries his dreams. A once fearless boy turns into a man who second guesses himself at every turn. He goes from a warrior in training to a man who asks for permission before making decisions. He loses his natural aggression, his drive, his willingness to take risks. He stops seeing himself as the leader of his own life and instead becomes a passenger in it. But here's the truth. A woman will never be attracted to a man who asks for permission to exist, and no man will ever respect himself if he spends his life waiting to be chosen instead of seizing what he wants. Look at an average man today. What do you see? He slouches, he averts his eyes, he speaks hesitantly, as if afraid of offending someone. He constantly worries about what others think of him. His body is weak, his spirit is broken, his mind is controlled by fear. And then he wonders why his life feels empty, why he's constantly overlooked, why his woman doesn't respect him, why his boss walks all over him, why no one takes him seriously. It's because he has allowed himself to be reduced to a domesticated pet rather than a warrior in command of his life. And the worst part, he knows it.
Yep. That's very true. You know, I like I said, I used to be a progressive leftist. I was taught to be a good boy. So I know exactly what Thor's talking about. I had a primer too. My dad trained me to be resilient to that sort of influence, but I still fell to it. You know, why? Well, because of the flaws that my own father had with his alcoholism. So I got to see firsthand the flaws in that. And I made the assumption I almost made in certain situations recently where I didn't recognize what was actually going on fully. And my feelings were blinding me to the truth. So because I was taught to be a good boy and just, oh, that's the right thing to do. When my gut is screaming at me, telling me, no, this is the right thing to do. And they're telling you wrong. And they didn't do it on purpose. That's the thing. Everybody's been taught this for, you know, Thor talked about it in his first book, how this has been taught for the last 50 to 100 years. So it's kind of like the game of telephone. People are just repeating what they think is the truth, but it's become distorted. So technically speaking, it's no longer the truth. And it's all based on that like idealistic rather than realistic viewpoint, at least in my opinion.
All right, I'll start from here, you guys. Just getting the computer fired up again. Sorry for my tardiness, and thank you, Tarl, for stepping up and taking control of this episode.
No problem, man. Anytime.
You know, things are always ever changing in life, so it's you have a plan, and then sometimes the plan doesn't go accordingly, and you gotta call an audible. So this was a good audible, Carl. One second, I'm gonna swap over from my computer to the phone. So bear with me.
Yep, no problem, Glenn. Yeah, like I said, that's yeah. If somebody that I care about needs help, I will do everything in my power. Like I told Thor myself, if I could be there right now, if I had the financial means and all that, I'm not in the situation where I could do that unless it was like an emergency, like a real emergency. Like if Glenn couldn't be there, I would honestly, I would try to find a way to be there. I don't know how, but the thing is that if my friend's in need, doesn't matter even if you're a friend, you know, unfortunately, I haven't got to ever meet Thor in real life. That's an unfortunate fact, you know, but the thing is that I've gotten to know the man very well, not just through his work, but through him talking to me, asking me for my help. So, you know, I'm always going to do the right thing the best I see it, you know, and that's all that I think other men should ask of other men. It's just like none of us are perfect, but we do what we need to under that operation of enlightened self-interest to actually help others.
Yo, how you guys doing?
Loud and
Can you
clear,
hear me?
real loud and clear.
Good. Where's my mic at? That's a good question. So how far did we get? We got to we went through the list of.
Yeah. I went through all the notes that you had. I just read them off more or less verbatim, so I did kind of speed through them. But I figured one clarification I'd like to add would be the monetization thing. Like, part of the reason why we would want to do this as well is so that way the people that are contributing can get paid under that mindset of enlightened self-interest, right? The people that are contributing the most should have the ability to benefit from that themselves as well as benefiting others. Like I said, the entire model of enlightened self-interest is that everybody has to benefit. So if it's a model that doesn't benefit everybody involved, the model needs to change and be able to include that if we can. I believe I know many things about that structure, and I'm going to help Glenn build that proper structure. Can't hear you now, Glenn. One second. One of the downsides of trying to, run 2 studio rooms while you're taking care of people.
How about that?
Yep, can hear you now.
Great. I still don't have my normal studio set up because I'm at home. So I'm playing the audibles here. Let me say this is like, I have avoided any type of responsibility when it comes to the DragonShip, like a deadbeat dad avoiding child support. I have been here from the very beginning. Every time Thor asked me if I wanted to be VP, I turned it down. I always put somebody else. I would always vote for someone else to be in that position. And it wasn't because I didn't believe in it. It's just because I knew what it would cost. And I knew that I wasn't ready yet. Someone else needed to be there. I had the foreknowledge, knowing that, like, I don't want the VP, and that's why we had Phil Foster. And then when Phil parted ways, then there was that vacancy. No, that's why we got Paul Bauer. And there's a saying that, like, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And I probably stepped away. I didn't want to take on the roles myself just because I thought that I wasn't ready to handle it. I wasn't equipped with it. I think there's always someone better. I still always think there's somebody better than you. But when it came to this, when it came to the legacy, when it was coming to what he was asking, I just accepted orders and chose to follow through with it. So there will be some changes. One of the main things that Thor always wanted and what he could not stand is this constant divide between men and women. He's like, what's the point of knowing female nature if you don't get to enjoy females? Like, it's funny that way. Like, and you got a lot of these guys in the space that are so hung up on, like, container words like alpha, beta. I'm a sigma. What? And they're more concerned about how other people are defining them, or how do they meet a definition of external rather than themselves. Thor's book is always forward thinking in the sense of, now you know the information, so what are you going to do about it? Where are you going to go with it? What direction are you going to choose? I told Thor that I think the red pill is supposed to be like a gas station. You go in when you need to fill up, and then you get the fuck out and get back on your journey. The journey is the way down to the path of becoming a dominant masculine man, having that presence of a DMP. But if everybody's making the red pill a destination, they're not growing. They're not moving forward. They're getting stagnant. Sure, you can drop quotes and data and you could recite the rational male like it's scripture. But what good does that do you if you don't put it into practice? What good does it do you if you don't live it? And Thor's book was a challenge to people to live it. And he shows you how he lives it, even battling some of the most ridiculous circumstances life has thrown at any man. And he's always been victorious. Even now, he's still victorious. Because he has not let what he's facing defeat his spirit, to take him out permanently, in the sense of he doesn't quit. He has no quit. And I don't expect anything less from him, though, as long as I've known him. You know, there's a lot of people, and I see in the chat, like, you know, bad advice. Yeah, there are some bad advice out here. There's a lot of people in this space that have constantly benefiting and capitalizing on the pain and the struggles of men. If you buy my book or you buy my course, you know, for $9.99, I guarantee you will be a new man. We won't promise you anything like that. But I will promise you that you will have a brotherhood and the tools that we have at our disposal to help you get through it, and somebody to shoulder that weight for you when you're going through it. That's what we do here. DragonShip is not about, you know, hating women or becoming better for women. No. It's always about becoming the best man that you could be for you. Because when you are the best man for yourself, you are a good leader, you're a good husband, you're a good father, you're a good friend, you're a good brother. And that was Thor's dream. You know, he told me, like, when he was working as a lineman, he always had like these like younger guys underneath his wing that he would like coach and mentor and help. Kind of was like the surrogate uncle or father figure to a lot of young men. Then when he left the field job and he was more working in Missy's injury, you know, he was still missing that piece. That part of him that was being fulfilled by helping young men and coaching them. There was a void there. And that's why he created the DragonShip. He knew he still had more to give these young men. He still wanted to help them as best as he could. And that's been his goal. Now, many of you probably remember me saying that I will never sell a course. I don't want to sell courses. That's me. I'd rather just, I don't know. I think there's so many con artists out there that it makes that just sleazy. But if you look at Thor's courses, and I've been able to audit all of them. How to become a lineman tells you exactly what you need to do to get out there in that career field and make that big money. You know, how to, you know, get your hormones levels in check. All that is verified, and being able to cross-examine and, you know, have other people, peer-reviewed people, critique that, and they've all have agreed with them. You know, so everything that he does is on the up and up. So I have no problem saying, yeah, get his courses. And we want to continue that legacy. We want to continue that legacy of being the resource for men, but also being a resource for his legacy. See, Thor told me that everything he's ever done, all that he works hard for, is to make sure that his wife is taken care of the day that he ends up meeting his maker. And he wanted to make sure that there was a revenue stream that was sustainable for her if she needed it. And I'm like, wow, that's honorable. And I remember why he told me, he's like, the question was asked, like, what do you bring to the table? You remember that, you guys? Remember when everybody was asking women, so what do you bring to the table? Well, I am the table, right? Missy says, I bring your legacy. And so for people, Missy's very much involved in everything that's going to be going on moving forward with the DragonShip, the Dragons members, Sons of Thor. Her and I are in communication daily, but she's very much, overseeing everything, because she is still doing that, bringing her husband's legacy. Now she brought him legacy through children. Now she's bringing his legacy through supporting the Sons of Thor and everything that he has done and his work. So it continues on. That's where the monetization point comes in. In order to fulfill Thor's goal, yeah, we got to focus on the members. And that's something that has been slipping for a little bit now. And that's completely understandable, knowing everything that Thor's been going through and he's been facing. And so as president, I decided that we needed to retire the DragonShip at its current, format and current time, to really focus on what's important. The members, growing the membership, mentoring, building the team up and those that are following the team. We need to take this time to do just that. And will the DragonShip return? Yeah, but it may look different. It may not even be called the DragonShip. It might well be. Who knows? The future is yet to be determined. But we do know that in order to do what Thor desires us to do, we have to stop doing what we're currently doing to make those changes. And that's what we'll be doing. We'll be building, restructuring, repurposing, and you may see some new faces, and you may miss out on seeing some familiar faces. And that's okay. That's part of the process. So if anybody in the chat wants to ask any questions about what's going to be moving forward or anything, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link, and I will have it pinned on my channel, because I'm not going to pin it on a bunch of people's channels, and risk people getting P-bombed. Gotta watch that P-bombing. So bear with me, guys. There's a link I posted on my channel. All right.
Posted
There you
my
guys go.
channel
It's
as well.
pinned. Oh, did you pin it?
I put it in my channel.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about what to look forward to, why things have, any questions, please feel free. This is the time to do so.
Yep. And again, not everything is set in stone yet. But we wanted to have more or less a declaration of intent with some key details laid out of what we're going to be working on. Now, me looking at this with my expertise, with everything that we're trying to do, if we want to do it right, we're looking at like a build time, realistically, especially with all the extenuating circumstances, we're looking at 6 months to a year probably to really build everything out. And that's if things go according to plan. So
Yeah.
just looking at the complexity, like you heard, I listed off some of the key details. And like I said, that's just the general summary and just key notes. That's not even like an actual plan yet. So that's what we're gonna reference along with other material from Thor, including the original Dragonship agreement, like I mentioned before, to restructure everything with that full due diligence to detail.
Yeah. And there's going to be like there's going to be barriers to entry, you know, that weren't there, but or wanted there. And
Yep.
you know, those are things that got to be written out and added to the bylaws. And that's mainly just for the panel members or anybody who wants to be considered a coach. You know, there's going to be standards. There's going to be standards and expectations. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing.
Yeah.
So if anybody got any questions, again, please come on up, hop on up, say something. If you think that, you know, Tarl's bald head is not shiny enough and needs to put a little bit more wax on it, let him know. If you think I need to grow out my beard, tell me. I'm not going to listen, but you can say something about it. But yeah. Anybody, fellas, you guys have anything else to say or add to it at this point?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, you did a lot of talking, Tarl. You had shouldered most of that. You know,
Excited to see where this goes. So we're going to press forward and excited about the changes that are coming up.
Yeah, they are exciting. The competition, and not to say competition, but like the head should be exciting. It gives us the opportunity to prove once again. You know, when people are like, oh, I got to rebuild, I got to start over. No, you get the opportunity to prove your value, prove your worth. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's
like you said, Vidar, when one
exciting
door
time.
closes, I usually say when one door closes, two doors open, because that's been my experience.
Well, that's what I
One
said.
second,
When
guys.
one door closes, another one opens.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess on that note, since we
I'll be right there.
went
Hold
over
on.
everything.
Be right there. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, I figured, you know, if nobody does have any questions, I wanted to see any clarifications, then we can probably wrap it up here. And going on the topic of, you know, like what's ending for now, I do, you know, another declaration of intent, I do want to do my own content still for anybody that might be interested. And I still have the intent. There's certain people that I would like to collaborate with still, guys like Vidar. You know, Huds and I had talked about some stuff. I don't know if that's all going to pan out, but I don't intend on stopping doing what I'm doing because my goal is to be a contributing Dragonship member still within Thor's new structure.
Fantastic, man. And Viking Paradigm, right?
Yes.
Okay, for sure. Well, I don't have anything else, but looking forward to the future of what's in store.
And thank you for being here, Vidar. I know with everything that's going on with your brother that this has been a trying time for you as well. I could relate, but I can only imagine.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't ever have to go through it, but you know, it is life, and we do go through these things. It's what I was going to say is we shouldn't look at the times of down. We should look forward to the future. You know, it's just like Thor told me one time. He said, quit looking back through the rearview mirror. He says, you know what you need to do is take that mirror, point it down to yourself to look how cool you are moving forward.
It's a good one.
So that's what we need to do.
Oh yeah. Any final things you want to say, Glenn?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up like the Shields maidens.
Go for it.
You know, the Shield maidens is going to be a really. It'll probably be considered purple pillish because we're going to be talking with the women's, and we're going to have some women that Thor himself has considered good shield maidens. These are women that will go to war, that are not afraid, that stand firm. And you know, it's going to be really neat because when we normally see these panel shows, we see these women ain't shit, men ain't shit, can't trust no man. You know, all women are hypergamous. That's all you see. So it's like, damn, nobody should be getting together these days. I mean, you know, bring on the AI sex robots because, you know, at least that way you could program them. And that was never Thor's idea. That was dumb. Thor never thought like that. He was like, no, men or women are better together. You know, men just need to become the men that they ought to be rather than the men society has conformed them to be. And if the man is that way, then that would allow the woman to fall into what he calls the natural feminine state. And there's a long list of qualities. And these women, these Shields maidens, are going to encourage women to embrace these characteristics of a woman that Thor writes about. And that book that will be coming out later this year, it's going to be great. It'll be a good one.
And that right there is one fantastic idea.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to speak on that a little bit too, because I've been around these red pill spaces quite a bit. Red pill, there's other spaces too, the Christian spaces, you know, what people would call blue pill, whatever placeholder term you want to put it on. I've seen it all because I don't just stay in echo chambers. I like to go to different bubbles and actually see what's going on. And the two distinct things that I see that most people that even claim to understand female nature, they still somehow they get into these panel situations and they will either make the cardinal mistake of putting a woman in charge or giving her equal power, which I know, oh, blasphemy, you know, oh,
how dare you,
misogyny,
you know. But the thing is that that's what a lot of those situations end up getting blown up over. Yep, see you backstage, Brandon. We'll get you up here in a minute. And the other mistake that I see, they expect women to communicate directly and not emotionally. And when they're communicating indirectly and emotionally, instead of realizing that's literally your opportunity as a man to prove that you understand the game, you've mastered the language, you can talk to both men and women and understand that they're in fact different. And I see guys fail this basic test over and over again, even when they claim, yeah, I know women nature. Just like, no, you don't, because you can't have a regular conversation with them. I've gone into your panel show, Glenn, right, where there's guys that'll be sitting there going back and forth with a woman on the panel, and then I'll start talking to her, and what happens?
My panel show? Oh man.
No, like I'm talking about, I'm not trying to name names, but you know who the guys I'm talking about. They don't know how to talk to women. They just sit there and nag them over and over again, right?
No.
But the point is that
nag them or neg them.
Nag them, yeah. They just tease them and stuff like that, and make derogatory comments. And the problem is that they're being direct. Right? They're not being indirect. They're not understanding the game. And then they don't get the women to talk normally. They end up talking with emotion. They get them all riled up. And yeah, that's good for content. Fresh and Fit has capitalized on that over and over again.
Yeah.
But the thing is, does that lead to productive conversations between men and women? Demonstrating how you need to have conversations with women if you're going to have a long-term relationship with them. Because all that, you know, neg hitting and stuff like that, all the game stuff, yeah, that can get you laid. but it won't retain the girl over time. She won't want to stay with you. That's the issue. And guys don't understand that the long-term relationship game requires that resilience to her emotionality and her indirectness. And that's what the Shield Maiden show is meant to showcase. So, Glenn, we got Brandon backstage. If you want to bring him up.
Brandon, are we going to talk Looney Tunes? Because I don't think the Speedy Gonzalez and the Bugs Bunny this is the show for that.
Did he have questions about the show or the DragonShip, or is this just one of you guys from your audience?
You can bring him up. This will be interesting. Brandon, you're not
so
new here.
yeah, so you don't have questions for what's going on. Yeah, this is a Q&A section for people that know what's going on and wanted to know more. So if you don't have any questions, then there's no point in bringing you up. This isn't a general panel.
Yes, not just a regular panel, Brendan. But back to the Shield Maidens. You know, women are suffering too. It's not just men. And women are suffering from, you know, feminism telling them to suppress their traits, you know, to become the man that they want to marry, rather than looking for the man that they want to marry. And here are some traits that Thor writes about. It's called actual femininity, as a base level for women for a high value and attractiveness. So this is like Thor's SMV. You know, if women scores high on these, then you know she a hottie with a body. These qualities, my friends. So he goes with these qualities, my friends, make a 5.5 to an 8.8 to a 9.5 in relationship value. And SMV will increase by 2 points, according to his structure here. And this is interesting because, you know, we all heard, like, you know, women could talk themselves out of dick. Women could talk themselves out of a relationship, just like easily as guys could talk themselves out of vagina. And here's some of the traits that Thor writes about: fit, friendly, feeling sympathy, polite and pleasant, peaceful, accommodating, agreeable, conscientious, nurturing, cooperative, deference for her man and the elders with more experience, etiquette, decorum, trustworthy, respectful, prompt, compassionate, passionate, responsible, intuitive, understanding, nesting, eagerness, enthusiasm, innocence, self-care, modesty, elegance, restrained sexuality, and also unrestricted for her man, loyalty, self-validation, internal validation, timelessness, social awareness, active listening, sense of values, willingness in relationships to deference, mirroring, openness, and good nature. And we don't see women talking about any of these qualities and traits. They just got the BBL and, you know how to twerk, and then they're supposed to get the bag. So women need help too. Just as much as we're trying to help men become a man with the dominant masculine presence, Thor's desire was also to help women to embrace that actual femininity.
Yeah, that feminine elegance.
Mm-hmm. So that's what's going to be neat with the Shield Maidens, because no, we're not going to have women be telling men what they ought to do. The Shield Maidens are going to be addressing women. That's their goal. We're going to try to address, the men. And when we collaborate together, we're going to work together to try to build bridges, not burn them down. So, yeah, that'd be it for that. Anything else? Because if we're not going to get anybody coming up here, we could just kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up now. So, we've already given final thoughts and all that, and nobody had clearly, we gave plenty of time for people to ask questions that know what's going on. So thank you everybody for being here. This is what's coming out in the future. As men, you got to understand, this is a quote from the guy Zuby. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but he says that men are either creating or they're destroying. And if you're not creating, you're destroying. So I try to be a creator as a man rather than somebody that wants to tear anything down. And yes, you do need to rebuild. Sometimes you need to go through the rubble. But the thing is that if you're focused on building and rebuilding rather than tearing things down and hoping somebody else will rebuild it, right? That's what you see certain people in certain political associations. Yeah, let's tear it all down. Let's burn it all down. And then who's going to rebuild it? Somebody's got to fucking do the building. So I choose to be a builder. That's what the legacy is all about.
I said, you want to be like Nehemiah. We have a lot of Absaloms out there. Don't know who the story of Absalom. Absalom was David's son who betrayed him, wanted to overthrow his own father. Absalom would say all the things that sound sweet in the ears of the people to kind of win them over. But it was all BS. Nehemiah rebuilt the walls. He had tools in one hand to build, and then he had a sword in the other hand to fight off and defend. We need more Nehemiahs. We don't have many Nehemiahs anymore. That's what we need to build. We need to bring out the Nehemiahs. But go ahead, Tarl, please take it away.
Yep. Well, just thank you everybody for being here and everybody that's tuned in for the Dragon Ships. As I said, I and myself, as well as others, will be doing some other content coming up in the future. I'm sure Glenn, as he gets more time back, he'll be doing more content on his channel as well, and I'm sure we'll see him around. So stay tuned. We got a plan. We're going to be building, and we will keep people posted as to what's going on. So without further ado, thank you everybody for being here, and until later, Skull.
Raven wings as our guide, skies of fire and ash, hearts beating to clash. But it's time to rest our weary bones. This journey etched in stone. The dragon ship stands tall. Our brothers to heed the call. Show where we've been. Eyes of warriors kings. Sails have kissed the wind. Legends